But what about a Midnight Suns show? This has been mentioned at least by some scoopers or some rumors out there. Nobody at the studio has ever acknowledged this. Could one of these series be a Defenders? Could one of these series be a Heroes for Hire? Do we see something that's like Agents of the TVA?
Yes.
That would be so fun.
Hard yes.
Welcome back to the break room with a new rumor lining up with what Marvel's head of television is saying, that 5 live-action shows are in development. We're gonna guess what Marvel might come out with next. I'm Zach Huddleston, and joining me on this illustrious panel today, I've got Brandon Barrick.
You know it's going to be a Jubilee show.
Yeah, and the man, the myth, the legend, Erik Voss is here.
It's going to be a show that kills Jubilee.
Oh, no! Wow. I mean, it's still a Jubilee show, I guess. So with Agatha All Along being Marvel's next live-action show, just a few weeks away, their executives are out there doing the press tour, giving a lot of interviews, namely Marvel Studios' head of streaming television and animation, Brad Winderbaum, is out there. We last saw him talking X-Men 97 and skillfully avoiding Bo DeMeo comments. That will be a continued theme on this press tour, no doubt. But specifically, Brad Winderbaum did an interview with Entertainment Weekly where he said, one thing we are doing is we're developing a lot of shows now simultaneously. So in a way, we're making television more in a traditional style where we are going to write multiple pilots and show Bibles before we decide what we want to produce and actually bring to the screen, which gives us an opportunity to experiment and also to plan all sorts of different Marvel sandboxes. Yeah, which is, I think we've heard this before, after or around the time of both Bob Iger coming back to Disney and the disaster that was Secret Invasion. There was lots of discussion, right, of Marvel had been trying to reinvent the wheel of television production, and they were like, you know what? Maybe that 100 years of television history, they've figured some stuff out, and we should learn from that, right?
Well, and some of this is a result, too, of the writers and actors strike, which is forcing the studios to rightfully have full writers' rooms, have actual showrunners, something that Marvel didn't do in the past with their TV shows. So while some of this is Marvel recognizing the need to change course, some of it they're being forced to do, rightfully so.
Yeah. I think when they came out with these streaming shows that released in 2021, they didn't know that that would now be part of their business model. I think they were responding to a directive from the studio heads at the time that said that, oh, we want like episodic content on this new streaming app that we're going to have. So is there a way that you can do what you already do very well and just like break it up into pieces? Yeah. And then, so I think the problem they had, and sometimes they avoided it, but they just looked at all these as films and they gave the director all the power with the stories and they developed it the way you do a film, from the visual and the production design before you develop like a show Bible. And that's, I think, the issue they ran into. So it's like, I'm glad they're admitting it now as if this is some new thing that they discovered, but it's like, yes, it is like the way it's worked for them.
And for people that don't follow this as close, it is a big difference between film and TV. Film is usually considered a director's medium, where your Quentin Tarantino's, your Spike Lee's, your Martin Scorsese's are the main driving force of a film, but television is usually considered a writer's medium. And the showrunner is usually a writer, and they are the final boss on a TV show, so to speak, the main creative force. Often on network TV, you know, the directors are almost guns for hire. Sometimes there's a different director on each episode or whatever. The showrunner is the one person who oversees the entirety of the season. And Marvel was not doing that. No. Right? And so that's how they were kind of breaking the traditional form of television, and they ran into some challenges. Like on Secret Invasion, there were a lot of butting heads and like different kind of power grabs and stuff like that that contributed to the chaos around that show. So now they're kind of going back to, again, the formula that has created all of your favorite television. So a rumor from notable scooper Daniel RPK, come on the show, Daniel, indicates that, show your face.
We could already be here, we don't know.
That's right. Is that an anagram for Erik Voss? We'll never know.
I am Lord Voldemort.
The worst anagram.
Yeah, that's right.
He worked in I am and Lord.
He's like, when this gets revealed, it's gonna pay off. Trust me.
Okay, so Daniel RPK said that Marvel has at least 5 live-action shows in development.
Okay.
At least 5. And so, we know the ones that have been publicly acknowledged by Marvel, and these are, and sorry, we should clarify here. This is in development does not mean in production or has been produced. So obviously Agatha doesn't count. Ironheart does not count. That show's already been produced. Wonder Man does not count. That show's already been produced as well, and those set to release at some point in the future. This also does not count any animation. So more seasons of What If, X-Men 97, Eyes of Wakanda, Friendly Neighborhood, Spider-Man, anything else. So this is live action. So there's been so many rumors over the last couple of years since Marvel has started these projects. We thought we would kind of take in all of these rumors, the shows that have been publicly acknowledged, and kind of create what we think fits into those 5 slots, right?
Perfect.
Yes.
Fill those
slots.
Nailed it.
Evan?
Speaking of slots to fill, Iceman Matt in the chat reminded me of Vision Quest, the White Vision series.
Yes.
That is something that I guess we can automatically include. That feels like the in development, but also we know about, right?
Yeah.
So we can kind of get that out of the way.
Let's fill one of those slots, baby!
Filled!
I don't know if we're gonna cover that up. We might just keep it. Just keep it
I
as
think
is.
there's your thumbnail.
Brian, let's make a filled stamp that comes flying in and smashes into our faces. Filled! Show Phil Collins' face.
So especially because we think that show is not in production yet.
Well, but Paul Bettany's been attached to it. James Spader has been attached
But
to it.
I think this is what you would call in development,
Yes,
right?
it does-
Until they have a shoot date, it's not.
And we still call it Vision Quest, even though they've stopped calling it Vision
They've
Quest.
come back to call
Well,
it.
they've gone back to call it.
In the latest round of junket interviews, they're now calling it Vision Quest.
Well, I've been filled.
Expectations.
Speaking of favorite donuts, so yeah, and on a lot of the Agatha press tour, they've been talking about the Vision show as the third in the trilogy of WandaVision, Agatha,
yes.
and then Vision. So it's like, that feels like not only is it in development, it's almost certainly going to happen.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? It's
I don't know.
not.
Tell that to Blade.
Blade will happen. It just might not be in our lifetimes. And then the one other show that has been acknowledged. Now this doesn't feel like it's as much of a guarantee, but Brad Winderbaum and others at the studio have talked about that this show is being worked on to some degree. Is a Nova show. Probably Richard Rider. Yes, there. Oh, we got a beautiful little Nova graphic. Take it. Yes. Now, we can assume that Nova might fall into that category Winterbaum is talking about, of like they're going to develop more shows than they make. And again, very quick kind of television history lesson. All television networks, studios, they start a lot more shows in the pipeline than eventually come out, right? Like some shows kind of never get past a pitch. Some shows, they make a pilot and they never make it. Some shows even shoot a pilot and then cut it and never make it. That famously happened with the Naomi Watts Game of Thrones spinoff show. They spent millions of dollars to make a first episode of that and were like, nah, never mind, threw it away and went in a new direction. So we don't know what stage the Nova is, and it's not guaranteed that it will make its way to our screens.
Sure.
But they are working on it actively.
And Brad Winderbaum has said lots of interesting stuff about what the show would be. He talked about focusing on some of the more heated and extreme elements of what Richard Rider goes through. But he also compared it to what you might see in Battlestar Galactica or in Star Trek, two shows that have famously worked very well as space set TV series over time. I think people are like, how do you do that as a show on Disney Plus and keep the budget down? Well, you just set it on the interior of a spaceship.
Right.
And you can get away with a lot more.
Yeah, because we still don't know what happened to Xandar, a planet that was demolished prior to the snap. So as far as we know, Smart Hulk doing the undo snap doesn't maybe fix Xandar. If the destruction on Xandar was done by Thanos to get the Power Stone, right? So if Hulk didn't think to also fix Xandar when I'm bringing everyone back and
I
stuff,
think the Russos
it could still
were
be
asked.
messed up.
Yeah, the Russos or the writers were asked about that, and they're like, no, Hulk only made that wish to undo the snap,
Yeah,
the elements of the
exactly.
snap. So, people who died on Xandar, people who the Asgardians who died on the Sanctuary ship, they're still dead.
Loki being dead.
The Zahilbari, Gamora's people died and are still dead. So, but I think you just brought up Xandar and gave us a great opening sequence to this Nova series. like hell is raining down on Xandar, and then Nova is just like, imagine a Wonder that just follows Nova through the chaos as like Thanos' forces are destroying it to get the Power Stone, and he's just doing everything he can to try to keep him from getting it, and he fails.
That reminds me of the Wonder in Hawkeye, right? That follows young Kate Bishop during the Battle of New York, through her like mansion or whatever, right?
Similar,
Yeah, that'd be really cool. So again, we don't know what stage of development Nova is in, and they've been, the topic has been floated for years.
Yeah.
I feel like. So maybe they have moved it along. The fact that it's even still getting mentioned means it maybe is a little bit more serious. We could see that in the next couple of years. So if we think that 5 of the slots have been filled,
We're screaming every part of it now. Slots have been filled!
by Nova and Vision Quest or Vision Show, we have 3 left to play with. Okay. And there have been a lot of rumors, Reddit posts, different kind of scoopers, or whatever, that have mentioned different shows over time, and we're gonna kind of talk about those and the likelihood that we think they could be. Now, I guess Nova's a great place to start, just in that we have yet to see a Disney Plus show that takes place in space. It is a big part of the Marvel universe of characters. There's a lot of intergalactic and spacey kind of characters. A, what do you think the likelihood is that we even see a Nova show set in space? B, could that be like a new branch of shows? Could there be other space-based series?
Sure. You could spin off one of the characters from Guardians of the Galaxy, some of the lineup that was there at the end of Volume 3, Cosmo and Groot and Rocket, With Groot and Rocket, you have a pretty big VFX budget that you got to worry about. But yeah, I think like James Gunn definitely left some pieces in place of like a potential Quasar story, but I think Nova is like still the best option, because if you don't have the Guardians of the Galaxy side of the locations that were set up there, you're forced to either go to the Asgardians and the people of Sakaar. You could do like a Gladiator show, starring Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster. You could do a show set on Nowhere. Because I think with a TV show you need to think about the setting, and that's what makes space shows difficult, is like you have to identify what the main home base set is. So Star Trek has done a great job of that by just making it the Enterprise or whatever era of the ship they're on. Firefly had their ship, Battlestar Galactica had this like space station that they were on that was like a relic space station that just wasn't wired in so the Cylons could bring them down. So as long as you have that home base, and you got to think if Xandar is destroyed, what is the home base of a Nova series? Where is he? Is he now on Nowhere? Is he on Contraxia? And I think Nowhere is an interesting location, but do you guys feel like Nowhere got uglier in Volume 3? Like it just became very sandy and earth-toned, and it looked cooler in the first movie.
And especially, we also saw that, speaking of Disney Plus and the holiday special.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of that was set in Nowhere. Yes, agreed. It almost felt too practical.
Yeah.
It felt smaller in a weird way, right?
Yeah.
Because in the first movie, they're flying through it, and it seems like it has all these areas and stuff. But yeah, the third movie did make it seem like, it's just this corner right here.
It felt
That's
like a
all of
street
Nowhere.
corner,
Yeah.
and what was cool about Nowhere in the first movie is that you really felt you were inside of a skull with like a brain matter from a dead celestial, just like the big pools of yellow goo. And then you saw the mining ships that were actively scraping this matter off of the interior of the cranium. That's what like reminded you that you were inside of a skull the whole time, and you need a lot of exterior establishing shots otherwise to remind it, because otherwise all those shows we were just like inside, and it just felt like a street corner with alien writing on signs.
Sesame Street in space a little bit. Yeah.
So in order for it to feel like a space show, we need to be, wherever we are, it needs to feel like we're in space. Like the interior bulkheads of the Enterprise reminded us, and the conflicts they got involved with, they would touch down on planets and things like that. So I think the Nova show can't just be him floating in space. And I don't know, is there anything from the Marvels that you would want to follow as a space set show? Skrull Empire, New Colony?
I mean, you can establish a new space station outside of Earth, I guess, but then you're so close to Earth, it's like, why aren't you dealing with Earth?
I still really want a good Skrull show.
Yeah.
I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I mean, I am Iron Man 10 in the chat said, like, do you think they'd reboot Secret Invasion? I think that phrase right now is so tainted that they're just gonna stay away. But Al Sween in the chat suggesting seeing the Shi'ar in a series or
I mean,
something?
that would be cool.
This is an introduction. That
Bird
would be
people.
great.
I mean,
Yeah,
Empress
bird
Alondra.
people? Damn, that'd be
baby.
wild. Phil.
Yeah, if you were to do like the Corsairs from X-Men '97,
Right,
like
yeah.
it's just like if you were to introduce them before you were to introduce Storm or Cyclops, people would lose their fucking minds.
Right. Yeah.
So I think you need to have like. You could get there, but people I think associate the Shi'ar and the Corsairs with as just like third-tier X-Men characters. So
Yeah.
it'd be hard to do that before you have X-Men. But I think they should show up on this Nova show. I think you should have a live-action Little Andrew who shows
yeah.
up as like someone who Nova has to
Yeah,
deal
fun
with.
cameos like that could be very cool.
Yeah.
What I think the Disney Plus series did effectively, something like Miss Marvel, was like really introducing that character in a fun way. So that by the time we get to the Marvels movie, you don't have to spend time with how did she get her powers? What are her powers? What could she do? So I would hope with like a space-based show, if they do something like Nova, yeah, it's all new characters and we're introducing them. And yeah, maybe they show up in a movie later. But get away from like our main characters that we know and focus on like new characters and tell the stories that way.
Yeah.
And I will say though, you know, doing a space-based show that shows a lot of different locations and whatever seems like it'd be expensive, but like the Star Wars shows have pulled it off. Ahsoka, we're you know inside the mouths of space whales. We're going to multiple planets. We're seeing a lot of different terrains as well as in ships and stuff like that. So like, yeah, you could see like a similar visual level of effects and things like that
I
for a
think
Nova show.
You could also do a Silver Surfer show. That is like I think once we meet the version of the Silver Surfer and Fantastic Four First Steps, we're gonna meet Shala Bal, but there could be a Norin Rad Silver Surfer show, and you can just see that as like 100 episodes, right? He goes planet by planet and tries to spare some of them. Some of them he's unable to save, and so each time it's just like him meeting with this disembodied voice of Galactus. Maybe they don't have the budget to show Galactus, or we just see his mouth or something like that. And then he goes planet by planet, trying to spare them or trying to help people escape. Maybe there's like a rotten planet that's just been taken over by marauders who are just like slavers and awful people, and it deserves to die. And he just rescues one like a revolutionary. He's like, let's get you off this planet. It's doomed to die. And it's I think we could probably come up with like at least 20 good episodes of that. Of a show like that.
The Silver Surfer going planet to planet, banging out different species.
Wait,
being like,
what?
I'll call you in the morning. Don't worry. What's that shadow in the sky? Gotta surf.
I think that's like Rick and Morty, right? That's just what Rick's saying.
Or even like that was
Hell
almost
yeah.
that was almost the initial premise of Mandalorian.
Yeah, I
right?
like
a
Monster
different
of the Week,
adventure adventure every week, right? Like
Bang
whatever.
of the week.
Banging out different aliens.
to that
When did what part of
Sorry.
Eric's pitch dealt with banging out different?
He just made it better. This is an HBO series.
My wife's at home. She's okay with it.
What about Back on Earth? What's the show we can see on Earth?
Okay. So there's been another rumored show. Okay, more celestial bound, but or not celestial, terrestrial. Sorry, is something Wakanda based.
Okay,
So we
yes.
know we're getting Eyes of Wakanda, an animated series that is like historic, not set in the present day, but we could do something set in the present day. For reference, Ryan Coogler, the creative force behind the two Black Panther movies, also was the producer of Ironheart, a series we're getting next year, we believe, and has like expressed interest in doing more in the Wakanda world of characters. Could we see a Dora Milaje show, something else set in Wakanda?
Yeah, I think something with like, there was a rumor at one point maybe of like an Okoye show, like a spin-off show with that. I think the hardest thing is if you're doing like a Dora Milaje show, like are they interacting with the Black Panther all the time? If you do something about like War Dogs, where they're in a different country and they're never checking in on Wakanda, and it's about like a kind of fun espionage show where the War Dogs are going around to different countries, fighting off people trying to smuggle vibranium or trying to stop other countries from finding vibranium. Wakanda Forever showed how the U.S. was like, stealing proprietary tech to try and discover new sources of vibranium. I think a fun show, kind of globe-trotting around with the War Dogs trying to stop other countries from getting vibranium would be very, very cool. Especially in a version of the MCU now where everyone knows about Wakanda. That'd be like a fun show, and you wouldn't have to spend as much budget on recreating the Golden City or having big cameos from known actors. You could just like focus on all new characters and tell fun stories that way.
Yeah, I think when we were hearing about Armor Wars in the past, it seemed like what Marvel was doing with Armor Wars is it was just going to treat vibranium as a kind of like special resource that shouldn't have existed on planet Earth. Now they're kind of doing that with adamantium and Captain America: Brave New World. So I don't know if that's going to be sort of what they're doing with Armor Wars, and maybe Thunderbolts too, is just treating, oh no, now you have like arms dealers who are trading this precious metal that it can cut through anything. Shit. But I think it's hard to see how that's a TV series that isn't Eyes of Wakanda. Like, Eyes of Wakanda, I think, is a great concept. I can't wait to see that. But, like, if I think of what I loved about the first Black Panther film, it's the royal drama. So I would love to see, like, a prequel series following T'Chaka as, like, this king who has to fight off, like, rivals and try to run his kingdom, you know?
Yes, and even on that same note, I would love, you know, in the Black Panther comic book stories, there's a lot more, you know, they kind of resolved a lot of the inner Wakanda conflict in the first
tribes.
movie, right? Like M'Baku does not get along with the Black Panther in all the comic books, right? Like, he's an antagonist, and the different tribes of Wakanda, there's a lot of like political conflict and rivalries and stuff like that. Like, that might be fun in the vacuum of there being, you know, if Shuri doesn't want to be black or whatever, right? Like, to have Game of Thrones but set it in Wakanda could be, or House of the Dragon but set it in Wakanda could be kind of fun.
What if it's like G.I. Joe and the Dora Milaje and Black Panther drops in and beats up racists, and that's the show every day. And then there's like a PSA at the end. They say if someone says this to you, you can punch them in the face. I don't know. Like, it's like that kind of seemed like the first Black Panther ended with them going back to Oakland and building a community center, and I'm like, that could be a show that, of course, I'm being facetious. That show would satisfy some viewers, but would not be the best show to produce, to show violence as an answer to anything.
No, I do love the idea of giving it like an 80s after school special vibe would be kind of fun. Yeah.
That's a terrible pitch. I withdraw my pitch.
Here's my pitch. It's more of like a Glengarry Glen Ross. We're like, now that adamantium is around, they can't sell the vibranium anymore. And it's just this like,
You've got to try to move it.
this guy's got a garage full of vibranium he can't sell, and he's like, no, vibranium is still useful. You don't need adamantium.
No. I need leads.
The leads are good, Zach. The leads are good.
And there's just like, it's a pursuit of happiness thing where you just have one guy who's trying to sell this vibranium, but they don't want to buy it anymore.
Right.
So he has to make these deals.
Because
and sleep at a
adamantium
subway
is a cool
station.
new metal on the market. Okay. I like it. Sold.
I love it. Okay, well, we just like threw out like 8 different Wakanda-based pitches. One of those feels like it'll work. And I think this fits. There are kind of 2 subcategories here, right? There are launching new characters, and there are maybe exploring a world established in film, right? Like, whether that's like following the film characters, like maybe an Okoye-based series, or following just other Wakandan, right, like War Dogs, or going back in history, characters we haven't met before, but it's exploring the sandbox, to use Brad Winderbaum's language, that was established in Black Panther, right? Could be interesting. We're going to come back to, we have some more ideas in both of those categories. But we want to shout out one of our sponsors, our good friends at One Shot Energy. Look at these guys, Energy Chews right here. One Shot Energy Chews are a healthy and convenient energy boosting supplement candy for everybody. They make energy chews, focus chews that don't have caffeine in them, and voice drops, which I could probably use one of those right now, that are good help for your throat if you're a talker. They give your throat a little TLC. You can get all these products at oneshotenergy.com/newrockstars. You can get 10% off your order. Right here we have these are inspired by Stellaris. What do you think we looked that up? Is that a game or a streamer?
I think it was a game.
Oh, okay. Not a game we're familiar with.
Not
but
helpful.
these are energy chews. They come in like a little pack like that, and it's like just popping a little chewy candy, but it's got a nice little dose of caffeine in it. If you don't feel like drinking an energy drink.
Are there meat in these?
No.
What
Why
are
would
they
you?
then?
Why would you even assume there'd be meat in them?
I
Can
don't
we
know.
get meat in them?
No. What are you, a maniac?
Well, what are they made of then?
Oh, they're made from all plant-based and naturally sweetened without a bunch of fillers and chemicals.
That's what I was getting.
They're made of good stuff. But why would you ask if they have meat in them?
Because it's the opposite of a plant is meat.
The opposite of a plant is meat?
Yes.
What's a rock? What's dirt?
That's a plant.
Dirt is the opposite of air.
Okay, yeah, that checks out. So get charted. A lot of our fans have tried these out. Have left reviews, have left comments in our videos. They've not only placed orders, but we've been told by the One Shot folks that we get a lot of repeat orders. Like people that have bought One Shot Energy using our promo code go back and buy it again later because they really enjoy the product. So that can be you. Check them out. You've probably heard us talk about them before. Go to One Shot Energy. Get an energy chew with caffeine. Get a focus chew without caffeine. Get a throat drop. Buy meat separately. What are you, some kind of maniac?
You're not getting that. You're not gonna get.
What are you, some kind of mediac?
Oh no. Oh no.
That's right. We're not out here promoting the carnivore diet like we're Jordan Peterson or something.
Keep it in.
Oh no! It fell into my meat bowl.
I want new merch. What is dirt? What is rock? New merch.
We'll get that before we get Gina was right shirts.
You're damn straight we will. You're damn straight we will. Do we finish the promo? Do we finish the ad? I don't know.
New Rockstars puts out what is rock shirt before we get GTA 6.
What is rock?
What is rock?
What is plant?
Speaking of which, check out nerdriot.shop. We're all wearing shirts from nerdriot.shop. I'm wearing just a classic Breakroom logo shirt. Eric's got one of those It's Cousin Time shirts. If you're a fan of The Bear and a fan of Fantastic Four, it's a nice melding of Ebon Moss, Baccarat's...
What is beef?
What is beef? What is beef if not cows expiring? And then Brandon's got a little Dr. Doom inspired shirt there. What?
I'm making the white vision face.
Let me doing Hall of the Presidents a little bit.
Yeah, that's James
also-
Madison if I've ever
They
seen it.
have other colors at NerdRiot.shop. We're all wearing
black.
I keep asking for more colorful shirts. Evan's got
Evan's got
like
one of the
Tatooine shirt.
You Tatooine shirt?
You can see the
looks great.
twin suns.
Yeah, it's actually.
You can see the moisture evaporators.
You can see Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru
Just charred bodies.
crisp.
I've actually got the Moncala one of those in a nice blue. It's gorgeous. Fun inside baseball fact here. Erik almost entirely wears black shirts because he shoots on a blue screen, and if you wear a blue shirt on a blue screen, it looks wacky.
It does. You kind of look like those local weathermen who are just kind of floating heads.
Yeah.
The Cannonball Z saying, "What is meat if not fleshiness persevering?"
Ooh, I
There
like
it
that.
is. There it is. Very on brand.
Solid.
Okay, we all take a sip.
I'll take a
taking a
sip.
bug.
I'll vamp.
That was the
Donuts.
weekend. Working hard, hardly working, huh? Okay, so those are some. We have some other kind of likely candidates that we want to get into, right? And this kind of like revisiting areas that have already been established with the Disney Plus series. Moon Knight. Okay, Moon Knight season 1 was a hit. People seem to enjoy it. People are always asking when we might be getting a season 2. Maybe, and we're going to come back to season 2s of existing shows. But what about a Midnight Suns show? This has been mentioned at least by some scoopers or some rumors out there. Nobody at the studio has ever acknowledged this. And for those that don't know, Midnight Suns is a team started in the 90s that has featured different members, but usually the core members are, there's a Ghost Rider of some variation. Moon Knight's often there. Sometimes Morbius, who I don't think will be showing up on Disney Plus anytime soon.
Sony owns Morbius. That's tough.
And then there's often the Man-Thing, Elsa Bloodstone are get in there. And then there's a lot of like lesser-known characters from the Dracula comic books. Blade, obviously, and some of the other non-Blade vampire hunters also get in there. What do we think the likelihood of seeing a Midnight Suns might be?
It's interesting because Moon Knight, I think they have a practical costume suit that he wears, but there's a lot of CGI involved with like the character of Moon Knight. And I would think if you're doing like a Midnight Sun show, that's a lot of like characters you're going to be juggling.
Ghost Rider,
yes, and potentially a lot of CGI.
But there's also a lot of like Elsa Bloodstone and like characters like that just look like
they
humans.
have a practical Man-Thing suit where they're just kind of CGIing the face and some of the like little features on him. Which I think is doable. But my main thing is like if you're gonna do Midnight Suns, people are gonna want Blade. If you haven't done the Blade movie yet, people are gonna be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like, this is how we get Blade. And like, I don't think Mahershala Ali's gonna show up for a TV show necessarily. I don't know though, because like Oscar Isaac showed up to do
And
Midnight.
Mahershala Ali has done TV shows before. He did True Detective. He did that show on Apple TV that nobody watched.
He
I
did
can't remember the
Rami
name
as
of it.
well, a season of Rami
yeah,
recurring.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did the video talking about how you could just make the Blade film a Midnight Suns movie in which Blade is the leader of it, and that could be one way that you just make a Blade movie that's definitely going to be different than this Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan vampire movie that's coming out next year, which I think is the reason why Blade just got so messed up with their release schedule.
Interesting.
So yeah, you could just make a true Marvel Blade story that is a team-up film with the Midnight Suns, and you just call it Blade Midnight. I think it could work that way. As a TV series, yeah, if you're gonna Blade in it, you gotta have Mahershala Ali in it, and he's like a major actor who just like, if you're gonna have him with all these other movie stars like Oscar Isaac, who is a movie star, it just increases the budget of that show. Like, I don't know how you do that for less than $25 million an episode.
Right.
If you're gonna have all the effects and all the action and all the stars
Well,
in it.
and I will say the rumors around this show have often mentioned Michael Giacchino is maybe being attached to this. He directed, famous composer who's done scores for a bunch of stuff, but he also directed the Werewolf by Night special. What if it's just kind of the squad from Werewolf by Night? What if it's, Werewolf by Night, Man-Thing, Elsa Bloodstone? Maybe you add in another humanoid vampire hunter type of character, monster hunter, and then maybe you just tease the Moon Knight or Blade or even Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I think you gotta have one of those three in there for it to feel like the Midnight Suns. Like, if Ghost Rider isn't in it, people are gonna be like, this isn't the Midnight Suns.
Right.
So I think that's the issue. And Ghost Rider is such an effect. Like, that's gonna be so costly alone. Like, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 4 budget had to be increased so much just to have Ghost Rider, and he was just a part of it. There was like an arc of it, and like, so for a show that is centered around Ghost Rider, it's just gonna be tough. So I think you need to have one of those three, preferably all of them, and if you don't, it's not gonna feel like Midnight Suns. It's gonna feel like the B Squad of them.
Yeah.
As much as I love Werewolf by Night, Man-Thing, but even guys like Sir Bernal, I don't think he's cheap.
Would you want a
he's expensive.
straight like Moon Knight season 2 that kind of picks up the story where it left off? It is mainly just Oscar Isaac's characters and Khonshu going forward where they left off, or would you want to see more connections to the MCU? Because Moon Knight is one of those projects that feels the most cut off from the rest of the MCU. Right? There was no real big crossover in that show, other than a little Kang reference that has probably disappeared now, right?
Oh, we should check Disney Plus to see if that Kang was scrubbed
did
out of there.
did they remove the symbol from the back of the jacket? I don't know.
Ooh,
I don't think Kevin Feige knows it's there. I think there's just like some.
It's a creative art department.
Right.
Yeah.
I would love to see a Moon Knight season 2. I think the way that season ended just left so many questions open.
And there was
Jake Lockley and
an Instagram tease that they were maybe looking at locations. Remember Oscar Isaac's?
Yeah, there might have been a joke. There might have been tongue in cheek.
Yeah, because he was with the director. They were in Egypt, I believe, and it was like, oh, we're doing location scouts for season 2. But that, I think, was just a joke.
Yeah. He could have been just emptying out the phone camera roll there.
Right.
Yeah, on Instagram.
Maybe they expensed the trip on Chapek's
Bless their
behalf.
hearts.
I don't know.
Yeah, and there's a world these projects could merge, but I will say that like I want more in the supernatural world, right? And like, we are getting more of the Agatha witchcraft element of it. This is a different, kind of monsters and demons and werewolves and vampires kind of element. Those could also merge. Maybe we could see Agatha show up in something like this, if not be a core member. But I want more. That feels like, especially, they haven't done anything hard R on Disney Plus to the degree that like Deadpool did in theaters. But like, could you get away with something scarier on Disney Plus than maybe you would want to try to do?
I mean, now that they've merged Hulu with Disney Plus, all the Alien movies are on Disney Plus. Like, they are doing more like TVMA there. So I would like to see, now that they've done Deadpool, what is your full TVMA live action show look like in the MCU? I would love it too. I mean, I love the style of Werewolf by Night.
Yes.
I would love it if, like, wherever Jack Russell goes, like, the world just becomes black and white and weird and creepy, and, like, there's almost no explanation to it. Like, he has an aura around him that creates that style. Like, that would be fun to see.
Yes.
That's fun.
If he interacts with other characters that way.
I think this is something that Marvel's thinking about. I don't think they're actively developing this because I think they're going to wait to see how Agatha does.
Yeah.
And if Agatha just doesn't connect with viewers, I mean, they're pouring a lot of effort and money into promoting this show. They're giving it its full, proper due.
It's their only live action this year, right?
Yeah. So I think that's, or Echo, if you consider Echo.
Sorry,
that was right at the
apologies to
beginning of the
Echo.
year, just right in at
Way
the
back
top.
in January. Yeah.
I think I think if Agatha just doesn't connect, I think Marvel's going to be like, our fan base is not into the supernatural side.
Because that's how the MCU started, right? Was like, what if the heroes from the comics are in our world right now? Like Iron Man was like, this is our world, and Iron Man's the only weird thing about it.
Yeah.
Evan?
We should probably move on to the next topic, but I just wanted to share this one idea from the Cannonball Z. What if they did a Midnight Sun series, but was an anthology series with a different hero each episode? I think that gets around some of the budget issues. Obviously, the business side of it, where like, who are you crediting as like the lead, blah, 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 blah. But could be fun.
Yeah.
That's a fun way to look at it.
I think that's definitely a great way to do it. It's just at some point you're going to want to see the team together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would
Finale.
you call it that? Yeah. Halloween 2026. Let's go. Okay. Other idea: Young Avengers.
Yes.
Obviously, there was a conscious effort put forth by Marvel to introduce a lot of younger equivalents to the known adult Avenger characters. Your Kate Bishops, your Cassie Langs, your Kamala Khans, the list goes on, right? Do we see them team up?
Yes. I think that is absolutely one of the ones they're developing. I think right now Marvel Studios understands what they have with Iman Vellani, and they probably look at the Marvel's box office, and is like, maybe she's not someone we can lead a movie with, but we can throw her into Avengers Doomsday or Avengers Secret Wars. And in the meantime, I think they recognize how beloved Miss Marvel was, and how much fun that post-credits scene was in Marvels where she meets Kate Bishop. And I think that absolutely, just having the two of them, and then you can build the team around that. Now, I don't think every kid who has been introduced in the MCU is going to show up here. I think, honestly, it's going to be mostly new people beyond the two of them.
Right.
Like, they cut whatever that ending scene was from Quantumania, and I don't think we're going to see Cassie Lang. Like, I think the technology, the cost of the visual effect of shrinking, and it's just too much. I think they're gonna be like, Quantumania was so underperforming. I don't think they're gonna justify it. So they're gonna bring in someone, maybe Joe Locke's character, if he ends up being someone who could be like a young Wiccan. They'll bring in someone who can be like a sorcerer. They'll bring in someone who can be Speed. And there's been rumors that Javen Scott is going to be in Vision Quest as like Speed, or a version of Speed. They'll have a speedster. And they'll probably bring in someone new to be like an Eli Bradley Patriot. It's just the question is, are they going to call it Young Avengers, or are they going to call it Champions? Because I think a lot of readers of comics are like, the Young Avengers wasn't as good as some of these other youth lineups, you know? Because, like, you know, there are youth lineups that have, like, America Chavez and Miles Morales in it, you know?
Right.
So you can call it anything. But I just think to viewers of Disney Plus who maybe don't read the comics, putting the word Avengers in there might be more marketable.
And I think, like, Young Avengers is weird because it's like, these characters have been around for a while, some of them for a while now, and like the actors aren't what we consider like young teens or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and I think it really pigeonholes them. Like, if it's very successful, do you keep calling it Young Avengers season 5 when they're in their 30s or something like that? Like, yeah, call it Champions or something else. But I do like the idea of like a new group of younger heroes coming in and doing that. And you know, it might sound like, in theory, like one of like the CW shows, but with a good budget behind it, they could make like a really fun, cool, entertaining show. And I thought Haley Steinfeld was great in the Hawkeye series and worked on like what you would consider more of a series and less of a movie. So yeah, I'll do something like that with like new heroes that are younger.
Yeah,
Don't call it Young Avengers.
I think Iman and Haley were just so fun to watch, and you like an audience is going to want to hang out with them every week. And that's the important thing on a TV series. You have to have like a good setting, and you have to have Like, it's a good hangout.
Keep them in a
vibe.
city, one city, like just
Yeah.
keep it very ground-based. Yeah.
Yeah, especially Kate was from New York and Amon's from New Jersey. Keep it in the tri-state.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Tri-state.
Right, Evan?
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Evan?
Just to throw like a DC analogy in there, for the animated side, they did a show called Young Justice, which was all the sidekicks for a while. As the sidekicks, got older, became their own people, more people kept filtering in, and the team Young Justice, as those characters then became mentors, could be an interesting way to look at it. Obviously, it's much easier to do in animation where the actors
Right.
can play multiple characters, get more money for their work, so to speak, and it's harder with all an evolving bench of people that we'd want to see together in a show.
Yeah. I think like despite what people may say about the quality of like the CW Arrowverse shows, a lot of those shows were extremely successful, and
Yeah.
that franchise was extremely successful. And Marvel is like, we need to do our version of it of programming that's aimed at younger viewers.
Right. And I think any of the knocks on that show or on those series came on a budget, right?
Yes.
They had to have filler episodes. They had to have like simpler sets and costumes.
And it was a while back. CGI has come along. Yeah, and obviously CW level budgets were much lower than what Disney Plus level budgets are. Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of teams, and it does seem like Disney Plus, Marvel are committed to the street level characters. Obviously, next year we're going to see Daredevil Born Again. We've already seen Echo, right? Like Hawkeye's kind of in that. Do we see more in that zone? Could one of these series be a Defenders? Could one of these series be a Heroes for Hire? Could we see, even within that realm, do we see a Power Man for Luke Cage? Do we see something with Iron Fist? Do we see Punisher?
I mean, with them bringing back Punisher from the Netflix series, like if they're gonna do Defenders, they're gonna have to bring back both Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Also, like I don't know if you can do it without them.
Could you recast a couple of them and not all of them?
I think those two are fine. I think
Yeah.
Mike Coulter and Kristen Ritter were really well cast.
Yes.
And I think you definitely cannot recast Jessica Jones. Like,
No.
I think, is she rumored to appear in Daredevil Born Again?
I think that's the rumor, but I think everyone's saying that because they want her back so bad.
And because Bernthal is going to be there, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and I think maybe Kristen Ritter wore a shirt in an Instagram post.
Oh,
It was
okay.
kind of teasing it a
Brandon's
little bit.
on the Insta.
I've been on Instagram before, but I will never go on Threads.
Good to know. Yeah, I think a good procedural, a good like crime drama.
Yeah.
I mean, Jessica Jones season 1, I think with Daredevil season 1 were the best of all those seasons. And I think just continuing that, whatever formula, if it works for Daredevil Born Again, it can work for Jessica Jones, and they should continue it. Now, Jessica Jones season 2 and season 3 got away from what was so good, and a part of that was just Kilgrave was such a fascinating
Right.
villain. I still think season 2 and season 3 were fine. They were fine. I just think they were, they got these 13 episode orders, and like 5 of the episodes weren't good.
Do you want Iron Fist to come back?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's
Fair enough.
It's a flawed character.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
tough. It's
it
tough.
just doesn't work.
Yeah,
And-
maybe
yeah.
that is a good target for a recasting or like a reworking of the character significantly, right?
They
Its background,
did
whatever.
hint that Iron Fist is going to show up in Eyes of Wakanda, but Eyes of Wakanda, again, animated and taking place throughout history. And Iron Fist, much like Black Panther, is a mantle that gets passed to different people.
I mean, the character, I don't care if you liked Iron Fist comics. Heroes for Hire made for a fun team up between, Luke Cage. But it's like, now the way the MCU works, Iron Fist as a element in this franchise contributes nothing that other characters don't contribute. We have people who are good hand-to-hand street fighters between Matt Murdock and Shang-Chi. What is Iron Fist going to bring? Because like the character as written in the comics is like, I'm just not interested in that story of like a rich white kid who crashes in another country and it just like becomes the most powerful person of that country's culture and brings it back over here. Like, I'm just not interested in that.
Yeah, it's a very mid-century way of storytelling
Yeah.
that, has not aged super well. Before we get to other maybe season 2s of existing shows, here's some other pitches, stuff that Evan certainly wants to see but doesn't believe will happen.
Fill me up, Evan.
I will be doing no filling.
Okay.
No filling. Okay, Xavier Academy, some kind of a... Is there a world in which the first X thing we see is a Disney Plus show?
I mean, technically, Ms. Marvel has a mutation.
Sure,
But yeah, do they do like a Cyclops or a Storm show before it's a movie?
That's why I'm kind of curious what he means by developing, because you know they have a mutant saga planned after Avengers: Secret Wars, and I guarantee you part of that slate is a Disney Plus series. So they're like, well, to connect the dots between our movies that we want to release, we want to have some mutants who can exist on a Disney Plus show. I bet that's on their board. So that's why I just think maybe not active development, maybe we won't see it for the next 5 years, but I think there will be at some point, whether it's Xavier Academy or Runaways. I know we had a Runaways show, but like something like that, a Morlocks show or something like that. We'll get a mutant show.
It's tough with like something like X-Men '97 where you're like, this is how I want to see the X-Men on my TV screen. Like, and I don't need a live action show that's not as great as that.
And especially, we're getting plenty more X-Men '97. We're getting 2 more seasons of that, kind of guaranteed, right?
And the way X-Men '97 season 1 worked is they just like started playing greatest hits. Like every episode, for the most part, adapted. We had like a Goblin
Very
Queen.
popular stories.
We had a Genosha massacre. We had OZT. Like we were just flying through stuff. So now we're probably gonna get some pretty crazy stuff in season 2. Like we're gonna get an Apocalypse, Age of Apocalypse storyline.
Now, if you want to make an Alpha Flight TV show, I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
I've been dying to see Sasquatch portrayed.
You want to see the Sasquatch? They got Chewbacca. Just take the Chewbacca suit, take off the bandolier, bada bing, bada boom. You got a Sasquatch.
Wow, live action Sasquatch. Okay. So speaking of successful things that have been successful on Disney Plus, Loki season 1, season 2.
Interesting.
Do we see something that's like Agents of the TVA?
Yes.
That would be so fun.
Hard yes. We need a TVA spinoff because you have Keoi Kwan playing OB, you have Wunmi Musaku playing B-15, you have Eugene Cordero playing Casey. Like, you have the supporting characters on Loki are so beloved, people would watch that show.
It's like Quantum Leap. You just, every episode, they're in a different time, they gotta solve a problem, they gotta fix a timeline, and then you bounce. And like, so fun, so procedural. I would love that.
It's about a hangout. It's a hangout vibe. It's at a great, interesting location with a fun concept, and it's what we thought Loki was going to be when it was first pitched to us.
Can I propose a problem here?
No.
Will there be a recognizable Marvel character in this show?
You can have OB. You can
OB?
have
They're all recognizable.
No, I mean, but like,
I see what you're saying.
The comic book fans, film fans would recognize.
I think you could do it like something like She-Hulk did, where if it's a little more fun, a little funnier. You're jumping to like different timelines. You're not on the sacred timeline, and you can see like, oh, here's this character. They show up in just this episode. We'll never see them again. They're played by whomever.
Oh, you mean like a Marvel Comics character?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you could go to a timeline where there's a variant of Thor. You don't need Chris Hemsworth. You have a fun little escapade.
I agree. This is a fun pitch. This would be a fun show. It also feels like Loki season 3 with no Loki.
Well, that's why you don't put Loki in the title.
Yeah,
but that's what the show would be, as we know it.
It's like saying, hey, it's like Cheers without Sam and Diane.
Agatha All Along is WandaVision season 2 without Wanda.
Agreed, and we'll see. We'll see if people get into it.
They're gonna love it.
Okay, I hope they do.
WandaVision was Avengers without most of the more popular Avengers in it.
Yeah, but it had 2 actors that had been in the Avengers.
Yeah, but no one cared about Vision or Wanda at that point. Literally no one, like I'm telling you, when it was announced at Comic-Con in 2019, we were sitting in the new Rockstars office and I'm like, really? They're gonna do a Vision show? Like Vision, then I started to read the West Coast Avengers storyline. I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty interesting. And the concept seemed very interesting. But when they just brought the 2 of them out on stage, I'm like, the way they have written the Scarlet Witch character up through Endgame has been boring, has been so boring. And the most interesting parts, they haven't done House of M with her. Yeah. Like, they haven't done, at that point, had done nothing interesting with Wanda Maximoff. So, like, they proved me wrong, thank God. But you could do that. You could take characters and just put good writers behind them. And I think already, OB, B-15, and Casey were interesting characters on Loki.
And again, I want this show to happen. I worry that Marvel, with their pivot back, with the same Marvel that's like Moana 2, Moana live action, Frozen 15. Everything will be a Toy Story, right? Like,
hey, we got hoppers, baby.
Let's go hoppers.
Let's go hoppers. Let's go hoppers. It's not about rabbits.
I just worry that Marvel's going to be like, where's the big Marvel star in this show?
I don't think you don't need the actor star. I think you could have the character fun with it by having different actors play variants of well-known heroes, and people, if it's presented as a comedy or more fun, type show.
I mean,
like,
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. got 7 seasons, and it was a very successful franchise just following Coulson and then new characters, and it had that promise of maybe Nick Fury will show up, maybe
Lady Sif,
maybe Lady Sif, and that's it. It was just them, and then they introduced other like forces. They referenced Hydra, and it became great. So that's why, like you mentioned, Secret Invasion. What they should do is just like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 8, you know, and make Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now part of this universe. But you need an Agents of something in the MCU. That needs to be one of the shows.
Yeah, that's a great. Hadn't made that connection when you pitched it. I love that. I also feel like with a show like that, and kind of what She-Hulk tried to do, in certain degree successfully, but like make a formal tonal pivot, right? Like way, like people in the chat pitching it more like a comedy. Like if you try to do it straight like that, you know, would be great.
Quantum Leap. I just want Quantum Leap back.
Yeah, because I think that's what was missing from the Loki show. I remember the first time we saw that Loki trailer and just how exciting it really looked like when they pitched the show. Remember there was just like that Super Bowl teaser, and it was just 9 seconds of
him
Loki,
in a
like,
jumpsuit.
I'm going to burn this place to the ground.
Yes.
Like I thought it was going to be like an episodic procedural Rick and Morty type thing that was set in the Citadel of Time, you know, where you're just like jumping around at different times, and it's like a team up between Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson just going to different time periods, and it ended up not being that at all. It ended up being something far more interesting, I think, where it was just like a weird existentialist, like what is time and what is existence and what is this organization mystery story. But there is another show that has been proven between Quantum Leap and Rick and Morty and other like time travel. Doctor Who, right? Doctor Who has been one of the most popular, successful TV franchises ever. I think Marvel could still do their version of Doctor Who.
I want to get to some, and these can be more like yay or nay.
Okay.
Do we think any of the things they have in development are second seasons of shows we've already seen? We've kind of mentioned a lot of these in passing. Moon Knight Season 2. Do we think we see something called Moon Knight Season 2?
I don't think so. I think Moon Knight shows up in Doomsday and Secret Wars, but I don't think we get a Season 2.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel Season 2.
I think they might do a Miss Marvel Season 2. It would be fun after she's had this fun space adventure to put her back on Earth. I'd be like, now you got to clean up Jersey City some more.
Iman Vellani was doing interviews saying that like Miss Marvel Season 2 is going to hinge on the popularity of the Marvels movie.
Right.
It was not very popular.
Yes.
That doesn't feel great just from a development standpoint, not from a storytelling or would I be excited to watch it, but just from a development standpoint. How about She-Hulk Season 2?
I think no to both of those. I don't think we're going to get a Miss Marvel Season 2. We might see her in these movies or in Young Avengers, and She-Hulk was just too expensive.
Yeah.
And I think, like, Marvel's just not, and Disney's not going to shell out the cost. I think these characters will show up in other movies, but a whole Season 2 for them is just too much money.
Hawkeye Season 2?
No.
I think,
But they're talking about it,
yeah,
right?
if they focus on like Kate Bishop, maybe Clint shows up again. There was like a rumor that they would bring in like Clint Barton's brother as a character. But I think if you want to follow Kate Bishop fully taking the mantle of Hawkeye, like I'm in for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great
Agreed.
show, and she could be very street level in New York, very easy to do.
Yeah. Falcon and Winter Soldier feels like those characters are back doing movies. I don't think we're going to see those on Disney Plus.
I think
It would have
also
to be,
maybe
like,
officially-
White Wolf. It would have to be White Wolf and Captain America now.
Yeah. Officially a
right.
limited series too, right? Like by the Emmys declaration, which maybe means nothing anymore after Ted Lasso. But
Sure.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so we've got those 3 slots to fill. And damn it, we need to fill some slots. What do we think after Vision Quest and Nova?
Okay.
What of the 3 shows we've talked about feel like the most likely to be actively in development as of today at Disney?
I think I like the idea of this Young Avengers champion show. That feels like very doable.
Yes.
And you could bring in some new characters and new actors.
My only question there, does that feel like they would want that more as a movie?
No.
I don't think so, because I think you want time to like explain who these new characters are and how they got their powers or what their powers are. And I think it could be, it doesn't need to be so action focused. It's more like existential of like what it means to be a hero. Am I going to give up my life to pursue this thing that now the whole world knows what an Avenger is?
Yeah.
And like, is that something I want for myself? Like, I think that could be a very doable show.
And to be clear, when I say no, I think I would want to see this as a movie. I'm just thinking from the studio's perspective. When they make movies, there's someone at the studio who's like, who is the star who has like opened a, $400 million movie before, who's in this lineup. And if like it's just a bunch of kids no one's heard of, for the way Marvel makes movies, they're going to be spending at least $200 million to make this, and it needs to be a movie that has a chance of making $500 million. So I just don't think they're going to spend that much money on a Young Avengers story.
Unless it's like a Young Avengers in Thunderbolts or something like that.
Yeah,
Like it's hinging on
actually,
another.
And maybe
element
maybe
to
that
it.
comes after the series, right? After you've
Yeah.
formed the
Like create
group.
the team and then make a movie.
Okay, so we feel like one of the slots is Young Avengers.
Young Avengers.
What do you think another slot is?
I think another kind of something in the Daredevil world, like a Defenders type show or Heroes for Hire or something like that. I think they feel pretty good about the direction of like the Daredevil Born Again. So something centered around Jessica Jones. And maybe they introduce a new character that she teams up with, and they call it Heroes for Hire or Jessica Jones. Now, do you count that as like a new show that they're developing?
Yeah.
Because it might just be like, we have this now, and then we're gonna do a spin-off of
This is
something we're already
season
doing.
2 or 3 of Daredevil is now just a Defender show.
But I think they looked at Daredevil Born Again as like a new show they were
Yeah.
developing, despite the fact that it's essentially going to be a season 4 of the Netflix show. So I think another one is going to be somewhere, something like that.
I hear that. I want to stand for something in the supernatural.
Okay.
Even if it's not Midnight Suns full blown, maybe we get a Man Thing, Elsa Bloodstone.
Nico
little fight.
Solo series.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Like some sort of Monster Hunters series.
Yeah.
And it could just follow Jack Russell and Man Thing as they go, not hunt monsters, but help monsters who are being hunted by this
Yeah.
league of monster hunters that we know exist.
Right.
Like something like that could be very fun.
Again, another like procedural type suggestion, right? Like
I just want a
if they're
procedural.
gonna move back to traditional TV,
Yeah.
might help, right?
Yeah, the traditional TV model was what can you do for 100 episodes? Even if you don't make 100, what could work for 100 episodes?
And like
right?
theoretically, stuff was happening in between episodes that you never saw, but it doesn't matter because they're just here to do their job.
Yeah. See, yeah, I think something in the supernatural, a Buffy type show is something that I would want. You know, that's my want. That plus Agents of the TVA or another Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. type thing are my want. But what I think Disney is actively developing as that fifth slot is probably something in the Mutant Saga. I think they're like, they have some writer
yeah.
in a room somewhere who's like developing art and developing a show Bible for like, you know, possibilities for what they want
Now,
in the Mutant Saga.
there are rumors out there that we're gonna get an X-Men movie 2027.
Yeah.
So like they could be
Post
concurrently.
Secret Wars or like before
Yeah.
Secret Wars?
Well, I don't have the
Or like
timeline.
holiday 2027.
Yeah,
so
later that
December.
year, something like
Yeah.
that. So like, there's a world in which they are concurrently developing a Disney Plus show
Yeah.
that might drop around the same time as the movie, right? Like, there's so many characters in that universe. You could focus in different ways. The younger ones, the school, whatever. Yeah, and it does feel like that is the richest untapped resource for Disney Marvel, right? That they're gonna want to build a lot of their next 10 years around. Yeah, I would say something X related, mutant. Yeah. Okay.
Do we fill the slots?
Do we our slots filled?
Do we fill the slots?
Yeah, Nova, right? Let's go through it one last time. Nova,
Vision Quest.
Vision Quest.
Young Avengers ish. Heroes for Hire, Defenders ish, and maybe
Supernatural-ish.
supernatural
Then a wild card.
Monster Hunter
yeah.
wild card, something for the Halloween season.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, or I guess is it up? Sorry, then we have 6, because then the
Mutant
X-Men,
series.
Yeah.
Mutant. Do we feel
At
stronger?
least 5 shows, right? Yeah, it was at least
It
5.
was at least 5. Great. We just filled 6.
We did
slots.
it, baby.
That's one hand and another thumb. Great. Throw in the chat what you think most likely would be. Not just what you want to see, but what you think based on everything we've seen up until now, everything you've read, what do you think
Yeah.
is likely in development?
You got a meeting with Bob Iger in 6 hours, and you got to have a pitch ready. What's it going to be?
That's right.
JPEG docu-series, How He Fell.
How we found. It's going to be a cooking show. It's mostly about the types of sandwiches Amy Pascal throws at Kevin Feige.
I'm thinking it was like a pesto, a chicken pesto
Oh,
with some sun-dried tomatoes.
I think it was
on
definitely a wrap, and they didn't want to say she threw a wrap because it doesn't sound as
well,
fun.
I would say
sandwich sounds
wraps
fun.
wraps throw better
Yeah,
because
you can
usually they
really-
have the wax paper, you know, or even if they don't have the wax paper, they're just more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
it's
get
like
a
I mean,
good
a
spiral on a wrap.
burrito is the best to throw.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's be honest, burrito or a calzone because you don't have like random pieces flying off.
Yeah,
and
you get a
everything.
good Hail Mary on one of those.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
unless
I
the
mean,
sandwich
it's
is
really
like a Dagwood where you got a big toothpick through it, it's gonna fall apart as soon as you throw it.
Now, the real a calzone fresh out the oven. So boom, it's both easy to throw, and then as soon as it hits, you're getting magma-like tomato sauce just scalding you.
Zach, why do you know so much about this?
What about a pita?
A
A nice
pita.
pita.
But they're usually open.
Yeah,
It's like a taco.
They're not as usually as tight, as wrapped as tight, because a pita is thicker than like your normal wrap material, like a lavash.
A lavash?
Maybe.
But a lavash is open on the ends, and it's going to unroll
That's
on
true.
you.
But
Yep.
you know what a pita is? It's filled.
As are these slots.
That's a slot that's filled with a pita right there.
Yep, that's right. We're just a little bit of shaved meat here covered in some tzatziki. Thank you so much for watching The Break Room. This was 3 guys on the panel. This is a real shaved meat type of panel. You know what I mean?
Oh, boy.
Some meat is shaved. We don't know if all of it is.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I don't even know what the metaphor means anymore. Thank you so much for watching The Break Room today, folks. We appreciate you. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming out. Erik has done a real cooker of a Rings of Power video coming out tomorrow on the new Rockstars
covering
show.
episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the first season. We're doing it all. The first half is one video. The second half is another video. It's just hard for me to keep up with these hour-long videos as separate videos each week because there's like other stuff on top of it. So it's just kind of like easier to clump them together since Amazon dropped the first 3 episodes in 1 week.
Crazy. Also, if you liked our speculation here about potential series in the pipeline over at Marvel for Disney Plus, Erik and Jessica sat down on Sneak Peek this week. Check it out on Sunday. They're going to talk about the special presentations that have been rumored. There's possibly 2 of those in the pipeline right now. And
Love it.
They broke it down.
And we didn't say fill the slots. No. But you'll see on Sunday. It's a great conversation that kind of talks about like the programming decisions that networks.
You were plugging the
make.
holes, not filling the slots.
Yeah, plug in the holes. That's right. It's a real light bright conversation.
For sure.
Yeah, and if you got more questions about Rings of Power, Erik and I will be doing Q&A live tomorrow. So bring your Rings of Power questions if you've been watching, because I
So
have
many
answers.
questions.
Your Tom Bombadil-based questions.
Your Tom Bombadil pickles?
Tom, come on the show, Tom.
Come on the show, Tom Bombadil. Bring your staff
Sing a
or whatever.
song.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to all our channels, follow us on social media, all those kind of things. And most importantly, have a good one.
Latest, Gators.
Bye.
Bye.